What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about 8 different stocks in this video today. We're going to be going over TSE for Michael Alberts, BKSY and Palantir for NK, TNXP for Passport X, Sofi and SMLR for PRPL MJRA. I don't know how to pronounce that. AKBA for KP, and then Amazon for Mr. Harvey. We're going to be getting this going right now, so if you guys could do me the honors of hitting that like button and subscribing to the content so that you can see more stuff like this. If you like technical analysis, you like seeing somebody do, analytics on charts like this, technical analysis on charts like this, I'm your guy. And without any more dragging on this intro, let's just get into it. So TSE, looking at it here, Trinseo PLC. I believe this is the one you've asked a couple times over the past week. My apologies for getting to it so late, Michael Alberts, but I figured today, it's Sunday for me. It's like late Sunday night, early Monday morning, probably for most people. This will probably get out in the right at the right time, right? Because the new stock week is starting in less than like 12 hours from now. So looking at the relative low to high here, reach down for some deep extensions, definitely showing a little bit of respect here and there along the way, but nothing too crazy. It looks a little bit more respected on the weekly. Hell of a week last week, 51% to the upside. Beautiful, man. Very beautiful move. Weekly RSI was looking set up for a move up. Yeah, you had some bullish divergence. Easy to say that now, obviously in hindsight, but this does look to be a breakout in my opinion. There's not a huge amount of volume, but that is above average volume nonetheless on a breakout move. This to me looks like a discernible high in a series of highs that you've had. So it is debatable, maybe this is the high, in which case you still have a lower high, or perhaps you have casted a new higher high, something that you haven't done in a very long time. I guess here technically you did, but it was all for naught. But still a long time nonetheless, since January 2023. You've broken this consolidation phase in your RSI as well, right? This little like symmetrical triangle look that you have in your RSI, you've broken that to the upside. So this to me does signal it's a fresh move. It's the beginning of a fresh move, and linking that to the idea that you've been in this downtrend for a very long time, since March, and I mean even March of 2021, and even going back further than that. This really could be the beginning of something that is a much larger retracement of a much larger move. This could have been your low at $1.94. You're at $4.42 now. I know that's a solid ways away, but from this relative high to this relative low, you could be working your way back up to about $7.88 and probably just past that, probably like right where you actually found resistance here, a little bit above $8, all the way up to $18.78, $24, $50, and beyond. Genuinely speaking, this could be the beginning of something absolutely fantastic. Now, I drew it like this. I wouldn't expect that it happens like this. It could. It's possible. They call this a V bottom, right? Where you have a V bottom like that. It can happen. I wouldn't hold my breath over that. I wouldn't count on that happening right now, right? Small beginnings, very small beginnings. Let's stay focused on the things ahead of us right now. Primarily, you want to get above the red line, which is at $4.61. You want to close above that on any given week, any given multi-day period. That would give you the green light for getting up above probably around that $8 area. And likely, again, I would expect that you probably do find resistance around this high. It's very, very, very common to go to your 382 zone, break above it the first time, just a little bit on the first attempt, and then pull back. And where you would pull back to very likely would be the 236 area. There are times where you pull back from your 382 and you don't hit the 236, and this could be one of these times because you do have this little ledge of support right here. But just generally speaking, when looking at fibs, this is the kind of maneuver I expect when working your way up to the 618, 69 area. And it doesn't have to be that clean and cut, right? It could be, like I said, you come up here, you don't have to touch the 236, who knows how it looks. Maybe you go up to your 0.5 and you come back down to find support here, and then like slowly but surely work your way up. But just a rough idea, 382, 236, 618, that's kind of the path that's laid out before us, right? So before we even think about these numbers here, before we even think about the numbers that were higher that I was illustrating, or not illustrating, just kind of illustrating, but showing, illuminating, shedding light on, we need to get above this area, 461, which I very much would expect is going to happen over the coming days, if not over the coming weeks, in a very short amount of time. I could see you consolidating here, maybe pulling back and then going up first, but just with how powerful this move is, with what it looks like to me, I would think I would think in a matter of no time, you're probably going to move up. But don't be discouraged, right? Don't be discouraged if this week or even the following weeks, even if the following month is just boring and you kind of consolidate right in this area more or less, right? Don't be discouraged. This would actually be healthy and just kind of agreeing with or setting up for the thing that I've laid out here, which is some upside, right? So all that to say, 461 breaks, we're good for about $8. It's probably a little bit above $8 is what I would expect. Yes, I know that says 788, but I'm calling for prices that are probably closer to $9 than $8, honestly, just above this 382. And then once we close and maintain above that, we absolutely do not have to go all the way back to the 236 to start thinking about these areas. But when we maintain readings above the 382, when we have like more than just 2 days closing above the 382 like we did here before, instead of just 2 days, we have 3 days closing above it, that would make me think that we are getting set up to go here. Of course, if not, if we close back down, we'll probably come back here, and this would get me excited for a move back up to the 382. We break that and on to the 61869 zone. So there's that. Looking good. Definitely big things that happened last week. I wish I talked about it, but whatever. I probably would not have expected a move like this to happen in the past week. Like, let's say I talked about it last Sunday before the week even happened, right? Like, I probably wouldn't have called for that, but definitely I would have assumed that we were getting near the point of a low. I probably would have thought that you would have gone a little bit lower, just because, like, being fair, right, from this low to high, you were so close to your 2272, but the fact that you didn't reach it and you're back above your 1886, reaching for that 1618, I think that there's a lot of good things that'll come from breaking this like high $4, $5 area in price. A lot of good things that'll take you, again, right there. Actually, that 1272 is really close to $9, right, close to this these points of resistance. What you want to start doing based off of this fib, you want to start being like productive, right? Every low comes in at a higher fib than previously. Every high comes in at a higher fib than previously. You don't want to be working to the negative side, right? You want to start working to the positive side. So I mean that's pretty obvious. I don't know why I said that, but there it is. So that's TSE. Let's talk about BKSY now and move through this a little faster. I spent a lot of time on that actually. BKSY here, BlackSky Technology. Weekly RSI is very neutral with a bearish tilt to it, and that makes sense because you're in a very neutral kind of phase of consolidation with lower highs and lower lows. You did slip a little bit, didn't you? Yeah, right there. A little bit of what they would call a fake out, and you're having positive, let's just say recourse because of that, right? Positive aftermath. I don't know what word to use. From a low point here to a high point here, hit your 1272. Nice. I like what you're doing actually right now, man. I do like that you're looking productive. Versus this, you're looking like anti-lower. You're looking like you want to start coming back up. So that's easy to say now, obviously, with the week that was up 20% last week. But I do like your weekly RSI for what it's worth where you are. I like the fact that you closed above this 618 here. This does tell me that you're more likely at a low than not at a low. Now what you have to do is just change the trend and break out of this phase of consolidation, right? If you want this thing to go up. I think let's just take this high to low here. If we can, there we go. Yes, we are. Yeah, if we can get above this 618, $1.34. And some of you might be looking at this like, I thought we were just above the 618. We are above the 618 from this low here to this high, this extended move that brought us down here. We're above this 618, yes, but the relative 618 from this high to low, where this one was the low to high, we're not quite above there yet. So being in this area, and with that kind of explosive move, it is common to chill for a second. And in that, you might consolidate around this zone and then move up, or more likely because you're at your 618 and you just kind of ripped right up there. It looks like you found resistance in your 382 area, back to your 236, and then up to that 618, like I've been talking about, right? It doesn't have to look so clean and dry, right? Or cut and dry. It doesn't have to look the prettiest, but you found resistance in this area, you found support in this area, and then boom, straight up to your 618, right? It more or less happened. It's just not as pretty, again, as these lines are, right? It's not as pretty as that, but it still looks like that more or less. Being that you are productive, the reason I'm only going over that is because that was the emphasis on the last one we did. The common kind of thing that I would expect is that you either pull back to your 0.5 or your 382, being that you're productive in this fib. So you don't have to hit these lines. Again, it doesn't have to be the most pretty thing ever. but I wouldn't expect that you continue too much higher right now. Right now, if you were to continue higher without pulling back, I would like to see some consolidation. It is completely possible. You can just keep going up. It's possible. It's just not what I would expect. Being in this zone here, being at relative areas of like support right here, right? A little bit of resistance in this zone here, support in this zone, and then just again right at your 618. Like with a nice move up like that, I would kind of expect that you do see a little pause. Let's look at the daily here. The daily's right at its overbought zone too. A little bit of a drop off in volume as you're moving higher, but it's not condemning. You really could continue to move up higher, but I'm on the impression that you do see a little bit of a pullback from here, from a high to a low, 1414 area. Yeah, let's call for a move back to about 120 to $1.15, somewhere in there. You're at 131 now. That's my expectation. So I said I wasn't going to spend too much money or time on that, but whatever. PLTR, Palantir. Looking at this one here. Also probably time for a little bit of a pullback. You do have bearish divergence presenting itself, so I think you're at least good for a move back to $28.58, but probably just a little bit below there. I like this zone right here where you found resistance on before. It's kind of your breakout zone. Somewhere between, let's say, $28.60 to $26, somewhere in that zone. That's probably where you're going to go back. If we take a relative low here to the relative high, that is right where your 382 is. Not quite where your 618 is, but I don't think you'd see a deeper tracer based off of this or like anything like that. So I think that's fine. Somewhere between about $28.60 to $26. That's where you're going to go down in the more immediate term. And then if we're looking at this in the long term of things, you're probably moving higher. That's a very strong looking weekly RSI, man. A very, very strong one indeed. You've been moving up in this little channel, right? Of which you look like you're at the top. So I don't think you're going to come all the way back down. I really don't. I'm kind of curious to see if you break out of this to the upside. It is a channel, but you can absolutely break out to the upside. And the only reason I'm calling for that is you're flirting with all-time high territory, right? Beside this week here, like where you are, you've spent predominantly, I mean, almost all of your life below that area, right? Only a very small amount of time above it. So when you do start moving up higher, whenever you do start getting above this zone here, there's really not much stopping you from seeing a crazy breakout to the upside. So being that you're in an upward sloping channel, I'm really not worried about you correcting to the downside. You could, but time will tell. Man, this whole thing kind of looks like an inverse head and shoulders. It kind of does. It's like a sombrero, a top hat, if you will, right? Like one of those, yeah. I want to look at the all-time high to the all-time low, and then we'll move on. Such a clean chart, man. Wow. That's awesome. Yeah, 236 resistance, broke above it, hit your 382. This time you did not do what like the normal expected thing to do, at least in my opinion. I say it's normal and expected, but it's not going to happen every time. It might not even happen 60% of the time, but over half the time, I'd say it's a good chance that you're going to find this little maneuver between the 382 to the 236 and then up. But just very strong move all the way up to your 0.5, consolidated in this area, reached right for your 618, no hesitation, pulled back to this area. You didn't go to your 382 because you found support on the weekly 123 green line here, weekly moving average right there. Hit the 618 again, found support on your 0.5, showing constructiveness in this fib range, broke above your 618, found support on it, beautiful. And now you're above your 786. Really, man, when you get above 3571, when you get above this 886 right here, it's just more of what I was saying a second ago. Whenever you break through this zone, of which there's really not much standing in your way, you've got some upside to go, man. You're going to be at new all-time highs, blue sky breakout territory. You're at 3178 now. I firmly do believe, as of now, that you are on the path that will take you to $78 to $157 over months to come, right? Probably not this week. Probably not even by the end of the year will you be in this area. But by the end of the year, you could be breaking out toward that area. You absolutely could be at new all-time highs by the end of the year. I just don't know if I'd expect, at the rate you're growing, that you'd be at $78 by the end of the year. But time will tell, right? Time will tell. But it looks good. It looks really good. Just a little bit of a pullback from now. And if it is deeper than I'm expecting it to be, I mean, you are in this upward sloping channel, right? and I'm not drawing it the best, but maybe you come all the way back down to like 23 bucks, 24 bucks, $25, somewhere in there, and then you come back up. But that's not my personal expectation as of now. As of right now, my expectation would be anywhere between about $28.70 and $30, somewhere in that zone. That's my personal expectation. So yeah, let's move on from there. Or whatever the numbers were from before. They're probably in the same area. If I used a different fib, it's probably in the same area, but this is the most relative one, so I feel like it'll help guide. And if you go a little bit below 28.70, maybe you go to like 27.40, and then again, if I'm wrong there, perhaps you are working your way all the way down to that 23 to 24, $25 area, and that's still fine. It's a higher low. But I personally don't expect that you're going to break below $27 on this next move down. All that to say, I would expect that you break below 30, but not below 27. So there's a more broad range, I guess. TNXP, Tonix Pharmaceuticals Holding Corp, is in the dumps. Absolutely terrible. Looks bad. Looks very bad. This is a bad daily RSI as well. It looks like you want to go lower, actually. Yes, you have bullish divergence. Yes, I see it, right? Higher lows, kind of, and lower lows, yes, but it's not bullish divergence, actually. It really isn't. It's actually bearish convergence, because this is your low here, your relative low. You've got lower lows here, right? You had a little momentary uptrend in your RSI that you've just broken out of. You're in a greater downtrend in this RSI, and you look like you just rejected the top side of it. You couldn't even hit. This looks really weak. You've got more downside to go, like immediately. This thing's in trouble, yeah. And it makes sense. Look at their earnings is not good. Nope. Right? Okay, let's see. What are we doing here? 0. You're at 34 cents and you're going to be worth $0 tomorrow. I don't know, man. This thing is bad. If I had to guess, like, where's it going to go? I don't even know how to properly. Are you even showing respect on any fibs here? Low to high? Kind of at some key areas, kind of, but not really, but kind of. Oh, I'm not optimistic for this prediction. Not because I think it's going down, but because I'm not optimistic in the accuracy of this prediction. But you're at 34 cents now. I have no problem believing that you're going to drop 50% or more from here with your current rate, current trajectory. Might not happen today. It might not happen next month. It might. But I think at the rate you're going, you're probably getting to the end of it. You can't break below 0, right? So this downtrend here in the RSI, sorry, I took a pause there. I was just trying to breathe. You can't really go too much lower. Like if you were to get a lower low, you can't really go too much lower than that. So odds are, and you could do this where you go there and then you come back up and then you form a higher low in your RSI, but still getting a lower low in your price, which would then mean that you might have 2 at the most more flushes to the downside, but at least 1 more. And these flushes to the downside, man, they're not really like forgiving. You move down and then you move sideways for a while, and then you move down a lot and then you move sideways, and so I would expect personally, being that this last sideways phase came in when you're at the low point in your RSI in this consolidation phase here, and you're not at the low point here, you're just starting, I would expect that you're not moving sideways now. This was your kind of sideways movement. You're getting started on this next movement down. You're probably going to be at 17 cents or lower over the weeks, over the months to come, certainly by the end of the year. And I'm only saying that based off of relative fib, so I'm not the most gung-ho on the accuracy of that call, but just based off of what we've got, based off of the depth of this fib, I think hitting the 2272 or lower is definitely in the cards. But it's hard to say. I don't know. Down is the best thing to say, and it's probably going to be rather immediate, right? Probably very immediate to the downside. I'm going to stop talking about this because I don't think it's worth talking about unless you're shorting it, in which case, good job for everybody who's shorting it. Do they do dividends? They don't do dividends. Probably good thing that they don't do dividends. 7.48 million, very low cap. I would stay away from this, man. I would stay away from it. If you have money in it, it's gone. It's just gone. It'll probably come back, but like it's going to be months before you even like this is your upside. There's your one glimmer of hope there. In so much time, like it just doesn't happen, man. It's not, and it's up a lot in a very short amount of time. But catching that's not the easiest thing to do, right? At any rate, you look like you've got lower to go, so I'm going to move on to the next one. Sofi Technologies, one of my like most least favorite stocks because it's just so boring and it's so there's so much promise in Sofi, right? Like everybody, whenever you first like heard about it, you see the ads, you look into it, it seems like a solid company and everything, but the stock is just boring, man. It's just anytime it goes up, it goes down. Anytime it goes down, it comes up. And right when you're thinking it's about to change trend and do some phenomenal things, it doesn't. It's just boring for over a year. Hold on. I had to sneeze, but it wouldn't come. It's one of those where I have to sneeze right now and it just won't come. I'm not one of those people who fights sneezes. I embrace them. I love them. Sneezes are my friends. But that one went away, and I'm kind of sad about it. But anyways, weekly RSI very neutral, price action's very neutral. You're up, sure. You're up the last 3 weeks. Probably sometime it's probably time to come down a little bit, right? Not a lot of volume. Volume's dying off. You are in a consolidation phase, right? Definitely in a consolidation phase, maybe in a larger consolidation phase, whatever you want to say. Volume's dying off, so you probably are going to break out one way or another. Maybe more like this, maybe more like this. Who knows how it is, but is that going to be next week? It could be. It's possible. You're probably getting to a point of a breakout over the coming weeks, over the coming months. I would expect that, but is it going to be to the upside or the downside? That's the question at hand, isn't it? I would think it's to the upside. I would think so, and at which case you're probably at a fine time to DCA, though I wouldn't be too surprised if it did pull back from here a little bit, right? Yeah, yeah. I think it will be to the upside. If for some reason you are to go below this low here, the lowest that I would give you is probably about 474, of which you're at 752 now, so that is a bit of a ways away. Maybe even 523, something to keep in mind. But I'm not so sure you go that low, personally. I'm not so sure. And remember, man, I love to not love SoFi. I really do. Maybe you do. Okay, maybe you go. Oh, it's not the easiest thing. I'm going to call for you going lower. I am going to call for you going lower than your current price. Okay. I at the moment do believe you will see a price below this low, somewhere between about 520 and 560, somewhere in that zone. That's what I'm expecting. Okay. And it will probably take time. It will probably take a little bit of time. I think you are very near the point where you will break out of this consolidation. Like I was saying, that has not changed. But being that you've been in this consolidation phase, debatably, since April of 2022, if not, if not at least June of 2023, either way, what's a couple more months? What's a quarter of a year in comparison to all this? It's a very short amount of time, right? Like literally here, this is the end of the year right here. What's that little bubble in the grand scheme of this whole consolidation phase? You're very near to breaking out, but that doesn't mean it has to be tomorrow or the next day or even next month. At this point in time, down. I'm calling for some downside. Yes, that's my expectation. Ho 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 ho! But there's so much conflicting stuff here. The daily looks like it wants to go up more. The daily does look like it wants to go up more. The weekly's neutral. It's too hard to really call it one way or another. The 3 hour looks a little bit bearish, but not bearish enough. You could see a little bit of upside next week, but ultimately I am calling for a lower low. So I don't know where it's going to be. Somewhere between 520 and 560 is what I said. I think somewhere in there. I do think you're going to get a lower low, but first, perhaps tomorrow or starting this week, you move up just a little bit more, like just a little bit. Maybe up to 780 at the highest. You're at 752, but then down. If you break above 780, if you get multiple days to close above 780, I'm wrong. And you're moving up higher. You're moving up much higher. And you might actually be breaking out of this consolidation phase and moving up to prices that are well above $13. But that's not my expectation. Little line of hope there, but it's not a line that I'm indulging in personally. Semler Scientific. SMLR. A lot of volume came in for whatever reason over here. Let's look at the monthly. What's this whole chart look like? Let's get familiar. Monthly RSI in the doghouse for a long time, but relatively neutral now, as is your price action. A lot of volume. A lot of volume came in there. Is this your 382? Oh, you look so good. Oh, wow. Wow, that's a hell of a place to consolidate. Generally speaking, as I've said a plethora of times in this channel's existence and tonight itself, you go to the 382, 236, and then that's a cause for down to the 61869 area, which would be perfect. It would absolutely be perfect because you've got, you know, I'm just going to put a line right here real quick at that 618. Delete the fibs. You've got previous areas of resistance back here. It's kind of where you consolidated before you really ripped up here, but I'm not so sure that you go all the way down there. You could. It is possible. But 382 to 236, and then you held support on the 382 again. It kind of makes me think that you're consolidating in this zone, which beyond the obvious, you obviously are consolidating in this zone. You might not be looking to break out of it to the downside is what I'm getting at, which would be really bullish. Really, really bullish because when you consolidate in this kind of zone off of these fibs here, like that normally would call for extensions. Something that's around a 10x or more from here could be possible over the years, right? This is on a monthly chart, so it would take time. Even when it's moving fast, I mean, you went from, you know, January 2017 to this relative high where you like started to kind of like slow down a little bit to October of 2018, right? Like it almost took 2 years just to do this, which is still phenomenal growth in 2 years' time, right? You're going from $1.52 all the way up to $38. Great, that's great, and it was basically nonstop on the way up there. Little half-year period here, but I don't think it's going to be like this. Is all I'm going to say, right? Like I don't think that you're going to move up in the next 2 years to these targets above $200, but maybe over time, nonetheless, you do. It just depends on which direction you break out of this, right? If you break out to the upside or the downside, and the lines are very nice and concise and clear. It's the 236 at $48, and then the 382 at $23.40. If you close below this yellow line, bad. If you close above the red line, good. So do that. You want to close above the red line, right? Weekly RSI is too neutral to say. It's got some positive structure to it, but I don't really care to make a comment on it personally. Relative low here. Nope, that was not the low. That was not the high either. That was neither the low or the high, nor the high. Yeah, right below your 618 and right back above it. I don't have a problem with that at all. And you're consolidating right above it. Daily RSI looks weak, but you might be moving up. You might be moving up. I'm gonna call for you moving up. You're at $29 now. Let's see what you do with $34. When you get above $38, it might be time to start thinking about breaking out of this thing to the upside. But until then, you are at the lower ends of this range. Keep your wits about you. You absolutely could break out to the downside. Lower prices do loom. I'm not sure you're going to break out of this today or tomorrow, but maybe over the coming months we'll have a little bit of a heading. But for now, yes, I think up. I do think up. You're probably going to move up to that $34 to $38 area. That's my expectation. Akebia looking like it wants to go up. Yeah, looking like it to me. Looking on the monthly. Oh my goodness. Might have spoken too soon, but the monthly actually looks kind of set up to be good. Neutral monthly RSI, but also strong. And the weekly RSI looks strong as well, actually. Relatively neutral, but overall strong. I like that you're holding support on the 123 moving average as well. What's this relative high to low doing for us? You're above the 618. No, you're below it. Okay. I think you're moving up, man. I think you are. Yeah. I think you're about to make a move up to around $2. 153 is where you're at now. I think you're going to move up to around $2 very, very soon. You could be moving down first to your 0.5 and then up, or maybe down to your 382 and then up, right? That 382 kind of looks nice. You've got these higher lows coming into play with each other, kind of, right? Kind of looks nice. You don't want to break that 382. You don't want to break $1.23. You really don't want to break that zone, because then you run the risk of forming an M pattern here, right? A deeper pattern. You don't want to do that. So hold that, if at all. What you'd really want to do is just start moving up, keep moving up, get above $1.61. That'd probably take you up to this $1.95 to $2.20 area, which is what I'm expecting. Time will tell. It almost looks like just for what it's worth on the chart, it almost looks like it wants to roll over, but the indicators and just the longer term stuff tells me that you're probably going to be moving higher, actually. But time will tell. I do think you're moving higher. Let's just see how you do. Probably around that $2 area. That's my guess for now. Amazon to finish this bad boy up, and then we'll wrap it up. Hit that like button, you guys. Subscribe if you haven't. Really do appreciate everybody for doing that. We're sitting at $177 for Amazon. Let's look at the monthly. Nice V-shaped recovery. Just phenomenal. Oftentimes you do finish the V right above, so you're consolidating. Yeah, it makes sense consolidating here. This is a great place to consolidate, man. Really great. I have no doubt believing that Amazon in time will be worth $237, $317. No doubt at all believing that. It's just when is the question, right? When will that happen? Let's look real quick. This is a rare opportunity. This is a kind of rare circumstances that we're in right now, right? We had a very long phase. Like for most of Amazon's life on this monthly chart, you don't have these huge gaps in the overbought zone, right? You're residing in it or you're not, but like you don't have this like huge gap where you're just outside of the overbought zone for that amount of time, right? Even here, it's like smaller, but like this is the last like huge gap. Maybe even here, certainly here, right? These are those bigger gaps that we just haven't really seen too much throughout this thing's history. So what did we do with price back then? You got overbought here, and you moved up. You had a V-shaped recovery even. It wasn't a full V, but that began a very long phase of consolidation before moving higher, right? Long gap here, finally got overbought, moved up a little bit, crept and crawled, but really a longer phase of consolidation that led to a higher low and then up higher. Long gap there, consolidated for some time. This time you didn't have a deep long pullback or a deep long pullback here. It was a lot shorter and more condensed, and you just continued to run, which is kind of what I'm expecting because this has been a more tame. Yes, it's your first time being overbought in a while, but you didn't just rip to these hot zones, right? You're actually consolidating around your overbought zone, which is really strong of a signal, in my opinion. And you're also consolidating above your all-time high. I would bet Amazon probably doesn't do anything for the rest of the year. It's probably going to be very boring. Maybe it gets a Christmas bump, a little bit of a Christmas bump. That could happen as well. I suppose it's possible that we could start moving higher by the end of the year and maybe higher than this price, but I don't know about new all-time highs. And if they are new all-time highs, I wouldn't expect anything crazy. Yeah, I'm going to guess next year is when you're going to see new all-time highs. And if I'm wrong, it's going to be like the very end of this year that you see new all-time highs, like around Christmas time. But I think you're going to be boring and moving sideways. 237 to 316 is the next targets in mind, and likely beyond that, absolutely, as time goes on, but nothing soon. On a weekly perspective, it does look like you want to go lower, and that makes sense kind of with what I'm saying is that it's not the time to move up yet. Though I wouldn't think you move too much lower, right? Your daily looks like you want to go lower. You've got higher highs in your RSI, lower highs in your price. It's hidden bearish divergence, which tends to mark continuation of a trend, which on the daily perspective, you might be in some kind of a downtrend, right? Like right now, you've got your lower highs and lower lows. That was another lower high at your 123 moving average, an area that you found support at back here. You're finding resistance on it now. Daily RSI looks like you want to go lower. Weekly RSI looks like you want to go lower. Yeah, so I'm going to stick with that. Let's say you go lower. I'm going to assume that you see a lower low, okay? $144 to $135. That's my guess ultimately, okay? But there's a chance that you could hold a higher low or even a double bottom, so be aware of that. 163 to 150 in that area could hold as support. If 151 doesn't hold, I'm very much under the impression 144 to 135 is going to happen. But that's just my opinion. And look at that, man. That 135, that golden ratio, the 1618 is right there at your 123 moving average on the weekly, an area that you have found support at before. A little bit of turbulence in the area, maybe not directly on the line itself, but in the area nonetheless. So, going a little bit maybe even going a little bit below 135 is in the cards. But as time goes on, as the weeks go on, as the months go on, this line could be up higher, and then perhaps you do go a little bit below it, and you do find support on the 1618 just like that. So nonetheless, lower. I don't think it's time for Amazon to start moving up just yet. You could be in some kind of diamond pattern. You could be. I mean, this could be like the first half of a diamond and you've got the other half to go. That is possible, and at which case you would like to see some higher lows being maintained, and you'd have a lot of interactions, right? You wouldn't just bounce off of this and come up if it was a diamond pattern. You'd probably do this where you like hug the line, you'd hug this line down here. But I'm drawing it. We don't know how it's going to look until we get there, right? I'm just drawing like a perfect looking diamond. It doesn't have to look like that. It could be like this. It could be like this. Like, you know, it might not even be a diamond pattern, but this little divot right here, this kind of gives it away that it might be, and it's at the top. Diamond patterns tend to be at the tops or the bottoms of moves. Well, I say they tend to be at the tops or bottoms. Diamond patterns can be continuation patterns. Right now it'd be the top, but if this move continues upwards, then I guess it's not at the top, is it? But all that to say, I digress. What I'm trying to say is lower nonetheless. Best case scenario, a higher low. Maybe you hold that 150 to 160 area, maybe. But if not, more likely, in my opinion, as of now, and my opinion can change, but as of now, I'm expecting that 140 to 130 area. 144 to 135. Yeah. Yep. So down. And that's all I got to say. So if you guys like the video, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I got nothing else. Bye-bye.